Hey guys, Ilse here. Thank you for dropping by and hanging out with me for a bit. So, first of all, I want to apologize for my voice, and hopefully, there will not be too much snottiness, but I'm just getting over like a chest cold and some congestion and kind of just getting my voice back. So, I might have to take tea breaks. I almost skipped this mini little training that I want to do for you guys. Um, but I wanted to share it while it was still fresh. And this comes or stems from a conversation I had last week with a client. And I think it's one of the most powerful key to 10xing not only your ability to create what you want, but your ability to receive it. So this client asked me during our session, why do we need to make what feels unsafe safe? And if you don't know me or my work, a big chunk of what I do with expansion stems or is all around making everything that feels unsafe safe. To me, anchoring into that unwavering ground of safety is what creates our capacity, our sovereignty, our self mastery, and of course, our ability to ripple into creating, receiving, and holding a whole lot more money and everything else that we want successfully. So, essentially, a core belief of mine and a core tenet of my body of work is that resistance is the antithesis to receiving. So, the first thing that we want to consider here is that our neurocircuitry, our brain, our nervous system, and our body is essentially wired in such a way that we will always put more focus, more importance on avoiding pain than on creating pleasure, freedom, or even joy. Everything in how we are programmed is designed to minimize the chance of pain. So, whatever we are afraid of and essentially avoiding that is always going to take precedence over what we desire. And what I find is that for a lot of us, there is this tug of war between avoiding certain things and creating others. So essentially, most of us, actually, I would say all of us, have conflicting desires. For example, let's say that one of your desires is to be successful or to fill your programs and your offers with ideal clients. But you also have this other desire, which is you really want to avoid the pain of rejection. So you've got these two desires, and they're kind of in competition with each other or to each other. And because we are essentially wired towards avoiding pain, including the pain of rejection, first and foremost, that is always going to take precedence and be more important to your brain, to your neurocircuitry, to your body than success or selling out your offers. So, the only way to interrupt that tug of war, to interrupt that pattern, because let's be honest, success, selling out our offers, filling our programs is often built on the back of rejection. And I want you to know that I speak of this from a really humble place because rejection was and still is one of the main things I try to avoid at all cost. I don't try to avoid it anymore, but I spent many years designing my programs, my marketing, doing everything I could to not feel or be rejected. And to this day, there is still something tender in me around it. Like when someone doesn't decide to move forward with working together, or, one of my clients decides to take a break, there's always a little something in me that feels rejected, and I still have to work with it. So The interrupting of that pattern, of that tug of war, is essentially finding a way to take the sting of rejection out. When we find a way to make rejection not only safe, but to actually create a way where rejection can actually be a pathway towards support and nourishment, then we cease to be afraid of it and we cease to avoid it. When we cease to be afraid of it and we cease to avoid it, that's when suddenly success and rejection are no longer in conflict with each other. They're no longer in opposition to each other. Let me give you another common example that I've also struggled with. And it's this idea of wanting to make really good money and create some kind of impact, some kind of legacy, but also having a desire to avoid the pain of being seen as greedy, self-serving, or selfish. And so a lot of sensitive, soulful, purpose-driven entrepreneurs and leaders, which is a lot of the people I work with, feel that way because at core, so much of what we do, and I'm going to include myself in that, is not about the money. It's about making an impact in the world. It's about being a lighthouse in the storm. So much of who we are is wrapped around making the world a better place. And so the idea that people could look at us and see us as selfish, as greedy, or worse of all, as a fraud can feel extremely painful, extremely hurtful, and debilitating. And so our desire to make good money and to have an impact is neutralized. It's literally negated and invalidated by our fear of being judged, of being criticized, of being attacked. And once again, what you want to avoid, the pain you don't want to feel, will be significantly more important to your brain and to your nervous system than your desire. And so your avoidance will always come to the detriment of your creation. With this particular pattern, this is when we see people undercharge. We see people offering discounts or overgiving in their offers and their programs. And they do that not from a real place of generosity. They do that so that no one could ever think that they're greedy or they're a fraud or they don't care or they're self-centered. Or what you'll see in this pattern, you'll see people hide and refuse to market or put their brilliance out there in such a way. So they're tiptoeing, they're hiding because they're more afraid of the criticism and the attack and the judgment than they are of being visible and having a big impact. And essentially they're more afraid of their fear than they are aligned with doing what they were born to do. And that's not their fault. It's literally how they are wired. So our fears oftentimes will define the life and the business we create. Our fears rule the choices we make and they determine the outcome. They limit what's possible for us until we have this shift of making what feels unsafe safe. And as I said, nothing's going to change that. Like your fear kind of being the string master behind the curtain is not going to change because literally avoiding fear is part of your original wiring towards survival. Nothing will change until you shift being seen as greedy, selfish, or being criticized, being judged, being attacked, even being seen as a fraud, essentially until you shift what feels unsafe into safety, until you start to see it as okay, until you find a way to feel nourished, to feel held, to feel supported in it, through it, and even by it. When that happens, you no longer freeze. You no longer armor. You no longer avoid. You no longer resist what you want. So when we're able to do that, when we're able to release that resistance to make what feels unsafe safe, our true desires are suddenly able to take precedence. So our desire to fill our programs, our desire to make a lot of money, our desire to be a lighthouse in the storm and to have a big impact, to be visible in a big way. All of those start to take precedence because our fears have been minimized. That's when we're suddenly able to stop procrastinating, to stop hiding and playing small, to stop people pleasing, to stop overgiving, having to prove ourselves, having to overcompensate, undercharging, being a perfectionist. We're suddenly able to stop sabotaging and resisting the very things that we want most. And at the foundation of all of that is making what feels unsafe safe. And so the lesson here, this is the key to easeful expansion and to exponential receivership. Everything you want is on the other side of what you are afraid to feel. Everything you desire is on the other side of what you are afraid to experience. But once you're no longer afraid to feel it, once you're no longer afraid to experience it, once you're no longer afraid, then you are no longer freezing, contracting, armoring, resisting, avoiding, and the flow is restored, both your inner flow and the external flow. Once you feel safe in and with what once felt unsafe, your capacity for what you want, both your capacity to create it, but also your capacity to receive it and to hold it, increases exponentially. And this is what we're doing here. This is the work. We're making everything that gets in the way of creating and having the dream life, the dream business, the dream you. We're making all of that safe. We're making everything that seems to be in the way to that next level. Your next level of identity, sovereignty, self-mastery, the next level to more freedom. We're making it the way to that life of significance, of impact, and wealth that you desire. So this is the training. Resistance is the antithesis to receiving. Finding where you have these opposite desires and finding a way to make what feels unsafe safe is the key to restoring the flow and is the key to getting out of your own way, essentially. Now, this is the work I do with clients. We work on neurology, we work on identity, and then we work on strategy. Because once you're freed up, then it's time to do some shit. It's time to make things happen. If you feel called to do this work, if you can see how you have this tug of war going on inside you, how your nervous system is potentially kind of contracting against the very things you want, and you are getting in your own way, then I want to invite you to work with me. And I want to invite you to work with me now. Because at the end of this month, we are now mid-October. At the end of October, somewhere in the first week to 2 weeks of November, my prices are going up significantly. There's been this powerful shift that's been happening inside me. In some way, I'm doing the same work I'm going to teach you. I still notice where my fears are holding me back, where I'm undercharging, where I'm people pleasing, where I'm overcompensating, and something in me is shifting. And what that means is that when something in me is shifting, and when I become bigger, usually my prices increase. And this time, it feels like they're going to increase by quite a bit. It feels like I'm actually starting a new business in some way, like just a really new level of my business. And so I want to invite you to get in before the price goes up and to essentially set yourself up to have not only like potentially make more money in the last couple months of this year than potentially you've made in the last 6 months, but really an opportunity to set yourself up to make 2025 the year that you completely explode out of your own box. So what I did is in the description of this video, I put a link directly to my program. This is my lowest tier. This is basically my group program with a little bit of one-on-one support. And it is at such an accessible price. And it includes life-changing things. Like, I mean, I have seen people in 1 month in this program shift more than they have the entire year before that. So I want to invite you to just check it out. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going over it in here. If you decide that you actually want more one-on-one support, then connect with me. Message me, leave me a comment, and we'll hop on a call, or I'll send you the link to my other programs, which are basically the same thing, except with more one-on-one support. But all my prices are going up significantly. So if you've been wanting to work with me, now's the time. Okay, I'm sending you love. I will be back on Thursday with an entire deep dive training on authority, visibility, making more money, and it will include quite a bit of strategic stuff on what you can do to really expand your impact and your income. So come back on Thursday for that. And I'm sending you love. Mwah.